we have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to another episode of the Sit Down at a Purely Arsenal podcast. We're here to discuss our USA tour that has just come to an end and the 5-3 battering of Barcelona. And with me, I've got Neil Shah to talk about it. How you doing, Neil?
I'm all good, Jack. How you doing? You all right? You just enjoyed yourself at the game?
Well, yeah, I don't get to go many anymore, do I? So I was at the game and I thought, let me do a little bit of tweeting about it, be a bit, like on the ground services about what's going on in the game. And I did enjoy it. It was one of my favourite pre-season games that I've been to. Obviously, we were talking offline about going, to a lot of pre-season games in the past, the Emirates Cup and all that, and always enjoying it, always taking something from it. And now, obviously, it's changed into this sort of mega blockbuster, commercialised around the world tour. But I think it looked like it was planned very, really well, and the way they ended it in LA, and obviously LA is where Kroenkes have kind of settled, and they're, the Rams are, and the new stadium, and it was pretty cool to see all of that, and it was a really, really good way. And it looked like after United, I would say slight disappointment. Would you agree with it? We haven't discussed the United game, but I'd say it was slightly disappointing performance-wise. Obviously I don't particularly care about results in pre-season, but I do look at the performances of certain players and things like that, and I thought it was a bit flat. But it looked like in this game we really had a point to prove, really. And even when we went 1-0 down early on, I was like, I think we've started quite well. We've started on the front foot. There was a delay of 36 minutes or something because the pitch had basically just been laid 12 minutes before we'd arrived or something, which was a little bit poor planning, I would say. This game's been in the works for a good few months, but we'll forgive them all that because the stadium was took my mind off it. All the surround sound, beautiful lights and all that took my mind. So me and Garrett were there, and I obviously took my missus, and she hasn't been to a game since for a while. I think maybe it was an Emirates Cup game that I took her to. That might have been one of the last games. I took her to Wigan away about 12 years ago.
Right.
Away to this game, I was reminding her of the games we'd been to. And
I remember going to one where you were both there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that was the Emirates Cup a long time ago, yes. Me and you, John. But I remember sort of when we first met, probably 6 weeks after we met, I drove her all the way to Wigan. Right. Wigan's Stadium was dreadful when it was like in the middle of a shopping mall area or something, and it was shocking. But I remember on the day we won 4-1, and the stand was moving, and she was like, "What's going on now?" I went, "It's it's very, it's all of this is very old." But this was obviously nothing like that. It was a pretty beautiful setting. But Neil, I never used to look into lineups for pre-season and silly stuff like this, but I think when a manager takes it so seriously and believes in it so much, and you can tell by the way he plans his squad development, the way he tries to get signings in early, the way he talks about pre-season, he's so intense, Mikel Arteta. It makes you feel really positive and excited about every game, no matter who you're playing, no matter what's on the line. So I'm, me and you sitting there logging into Arsenal player for Nuremberg away and all this sort of stuff for the first pre-season game. And it does. And even this game, I was sitting there, I was like, I'm quite excited for this. I think the most interesting thing, and I know you don't like to talk about lineups, but the most interesting thing about the lineup was obviously a bit unfortunate that Rice had a calf knock, but was the fact that he tried another option again at left back, and this time it was inverting Timber. And I was so excited when I saw the lineup, I have to say. One, because I was quite excited to see Thomas Partey, who I think has been probably one of the 3 or 4 standouts of the pre-season so far, despite the fact that I don't think he started more than one game, which is quite crazy to think. But to see Timber in a left back role where I felt that was a real possibility of inverting, kind of like as Zinchenko could, and to see what he had. And I was really, really excited to see that. And I just wonder what you thought. I mean, what were your thoughts? We'll talk about the game, but just if we touch on him a little bit, what have your thoughts been on Jurgen Timber? Because Havertz and Rice in a way have stolen the limelight of big signings and stuff like that, but I don't think any of us are under any sort of illusions that he's a really shrewd signing again. And he looked really strong, didn't he, at left? I thought didn't you think he looked really strong at left back? I think he played about 60 minutes before Tierney come on. And Tierney looked really good as well, I thought.
Yeah.
Which I was shouting, I'm not the biggest Tierney, felt like I'm ready to move on from that type of left back. But I thought he handled Dembele and their previous right winger who came off for Dembele. I thought he handled him really well. But just on Timber, what do you think he can provide? Do you think he can be an option at left back? Because we don't really know who's going to start at left back, because Zinchenko's missed the whole. I know he's there, but he's missed the whole tour basically, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's seriously surprised. I was, like you said earlier, I never used to look at lineups for pre-season friendlies. I was like 1 hour before and it hadn't been announced. I was like, what's going on? What? And I didn't realise that the game had been delayed, you see. So, and then I saw it and I thought, hang on a minute, why is he at left back? Because when we spoke about him in the previous, it might be the previous pod, I can't remember now, we were talking about you can see him more on the as a central or right player, or maybe you can even push it to midfield, maybe, but not left. I thought, what's he doing? What's Arteta up to? But God, he was all right, wasn't he? And he's really strong. He's really, really strong. He's a strong boy. He's not the tallest. He's 5'10", I think.
Yeah, which is still 3 or 4 inches taller than Zinchenko, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, he is. He's not the biggest.
But,
yeah,
I mean, comparable to now who we've got in the defence, he looks really short, doesn't he? Because they're all big guys. Yeah. But I mean, he's got some power on him, and I was really impressed with him. And I think I may have tweeted that although everyone's going to be looking at Rice and looking at other players, obviously the Sakas are going to always be standout players. But I said, and Trossard for me is just unbelievable at the moment, and I'm so happy. I think he's becoming one of my favourite players. I really like him a lot. But I said that I think one of the highlight players is going to be Timber this season. He could be the highlight signing of the season. For us anyway, I'm not talking about the whole Premier League, but maybe for us. And the fact that he's got so much versatility. So if we do have any crazy moments where, we might have an unfortunate injury or a suspension, he could literally slot in anywhere, Jack, in that sense, in that defence. It's such a versatile player. And I think this is what I like, and I touched on last time in the pod, that Arteta is bringing in so much versatility, so much flexibility on the signings that he makes, that, in that particular part of the pitch, they can play anywhere. And it makes such a difference, not just for our backup purposes and our rotation purposes, but also to bamboozle the opponents. Because they're like thinking, they're planning, right, you'll be marking him and you'll be potentially marking him. And all of a sudden the lineup's announced and they're like, hang on a minute, it's all changed, because they're all over the place. And that's what I like about Jesus, who's so underrated, I think, in the respect of everyone goes on about his scoring. But look what he does. I mean, it's just... you can't defend against him because he's like a little busy bee. He's like all over the place, and you just don't know what he's going to do. And the amount of work he puts in is unbelievable. And he looked like he's back to his best.
Yeah, Arteta said that, didn't he?
Right, there you go.
Yeah, he said this is the best I've seen him in months, which was interesting because. Sorry to interrupt you. It was interesting because Jesus in the last pre-season, if you remember, he just signed before the Nuremberg game and he looked amazing against Nuremberg. And in this pre-season, he's been very much eased in. Eddie started possibly played more minutes than him until this point. And they clearly been managing his minutes a little bit, maybe because of the injury. I know he came back from it already, but he didn't look quite the same. And but yeah, same as you, I remember sort of me after about half-time, me and Garrett going, Jesus, he's everywhere. Like he's what we know Gabriel Jesus to be. And when he's like that, like you said, he brings so much to everyone else around him. And you don't care if the team's scoring. He doesn't need to be on the score sheet when you're scoring 5 and 6s every game, do you? It doesn't matter.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. I mean, I was still, do you remember when I was saying I would still like to see a traditional target man, strong centre forward, powerful, knocking in those balls when we were struggling. But do you know what? I don't know. After seeing these, I mean, again, it's difficult to judge on pre-season friendlies. But look, I made that call last season. We had those pre-season friendlies, and I thought, look at us. There's something different about us. And look what we went and almost achieved. We almost won the league from it. So maybe there is something now, because as you said, Arteta is so intense with it all. He's taking every game so seriously, and good for him. I have so much respect for that, because I think every game should be taken seriously, because you start as you mean to go on, don't you, Jack? That's how it should be. And I just feel that you're seeing so much from it. I think you're gaining a lot, and he's getting a lot of insight from it as well. It's not just about giving the players pitch time and getting their fitness back up to levels. I think that's where we suffered against Man U, by the way. I think they're slightly ahead of us, and I think we just wasn't quite there or quite with it. But this game, you saw it. We're almost at ready level now for the Premiership start. And I just think that his approach to it is meticulous. It's just so intense. He wants to see what's going on. And why not? It's still a football match. You've still got people paying to go and watch it. So what if it's a pre-season friendly? I think the change in that mindset with them is a good one, I think, if we want to go on and really start progressing. And the other thing is, you also mentioned, I don't know if that was off air, that we're getting these signings in earlier. So we need to see them. We need to see them get out there, like the Timbers, the Havertz. Rice was unfortunate in this occasion, but we want to see them get as much time as possible so they can get used to each other, and then we're ready for Forest. We're ready for it, the season proper. But I going back to Timber, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. I think we've got a multitude of options now. The defence it's got to be one of the most versatile and most exciting defences that I've ever come across. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there's so many, like you said, there's so many options. And it's weird. I went back to listen to a podcast, I think me and James did about maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, when we were being linked to fullbacks, and people were questioning, are we going to get a right back or are we going to get a left back? And our argument was, we expect us to. My argument was, and I only had one name at the time that we'd been linked to, which was Fresneda, which surprisingly is now being very much linked to Barcelona. But the reason I thought we might bring in Fresneda was because he was a right back who had the ability to play at left back. And I never said it about that. When we signed Timber, I didn't even put that thought process there, because he hasn't played at left back for Ajax, at least in the last year or so. It's been predominantly right centre back and right back. But as soon as he played him at left back, it was like a light switched on. I went, yes. Yeah. We're going to see this more than once. This is the Arteta is not doing this just for the sake of it. He's definitely intending to possibly use Timber in this position. And he's probably watched over the games, and I think there is an argument to say, because what we thought about is maybe we invert from the left, but if Zinchenko's not there, maybe we invert from the right. But so I have watched us, and I think there could be some teething problems there, because it almost flips the midfield, and suddenly Partey or Rice, whoever they are, they have to shift, and it does change things, and it's a harder transition rather than just plugging someone in from the same spot to be inverted, because then it shuffles your centre backs as well, and everything has to shift there. And felt like Saliba in the game that Timber was inverted against United, I felt he was more exposed, where they were hitting us on the breakaway a lot. And I don't think it was necessarily because of Timber, but we've not played that right-sided inverted, really. Ben White plays as not an orthodox right back, but much more. He doesn't really invert. So I really liked it. I really liked that way he was going with Timber, and I was like, we're definitely going to see this again. I actually think after that game, I think he's going to start the season at left back. I think Timber will be our starting left back, because I think Zinchenko's been this too big a block of pre-season. And although, if you remember last season, Zinchenko didn't need a lot of time to get up to match fitness. Like, if you remember Chelsea away, he had a month out and had like one training session, and he just plonked him back in. So clearly he keeps himself in check, despite the fact that he constantly gets these reoccurring injuries. But I think now we've got the level, like you said, the defensive level, to be like, no, he's injured. We don't have to rush you back in. We've got a player to plug, and I've liked him there. I've liked Kirill there as well, but I think that I think Kirill's going to be great. His distribution's really, really good. But I think Timber, definitely, you can just tell he's really comfortable on the ball, like really, really comfortable, running out with the ball, passing with the ball, and he's a lot stronger than I realised as well in the tackles, in the duels. He was really strong, I thought. And I was really, really impressed with him. A couple of little wayward passes, but you forgive that because he was overall he was really, really good. But despite that, we talk about our defensive versatility and how we're really excited to see the way he's going to sort of plan for the back four. Throughout this preseason, a relatively common aspect of it has been conceding sloppy goals, which, in fairness, if we're to read into it a little bit, is kind of a knock-on effect from the end of last season, in a way, Neil. And I know it's pre-season, but we are getting maximum punishment for our errors. But if you go to the first goal, for example, and the second goal, I think, to a degree, Martin Odegaard is kind of a bit culpable. The first goal, he gives the ball away and then he slips because the poor playing surface, but he does give the ball away before it. Now, obviously, it's 70 yards away from goal, so I think we probably should do better. I think Saliba probably could have closed him down a little bit better. I think maybe we could have done a little bit better in the box. And Ramsdale was absolutely, I was watching right down at it. Ramsdale was so upset at the free kick to put them 2-1 ahead because Odegaard turned his body, to the side. And if he didn't, the ball would have gone forwards. But he turns his body and he basically knocks it into the bottom corner. And a lot of people were looking at Ramsdale saying maybe he should have got over to it. And I tend to probably agree, but I do probably largely put the blame on Odegaard there. Are you worried about some of these defensive lapses? Because I would argue, in hindsight, even watching back on the Man U game, they had 3 shots on target, scored 2 goals, Neil.
I know.
To be honest, we were the better team for a large portion of that game as well. But what skewed it was you were 2-0 down after 30 minutes and you're kind of going, oh, this ain't good. But if you watch it again, you go, we had some big chances. We basically dominated the ball. They were just trying to counter us with long balls and made some really silly errors. And I know it's pre-season, but I don't know, are you worried at all from the knock-on effect?
A little. I think. I mean, it was a Man U game where Ramsdale was at fault for one of the goals, wasn't it? He should have saved it.
The Bruno one, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And I was getting all the confusion.
The other one was Gabriel with the air.
Yes,
just missed it.
That's right. And this one, yeah, as you said, Saliba could have done a bit better. I think I remember. I think this was one where Adrian Clark was involved, and he said, or someone wasn't, and they said that maybe Saliba should have done a bit better closing him down.
I think he could have done, yeah.
But then Ramsdale's actually, the first save was pretty good.
It was.
It's just fell nicely to Lewandowski, didn't he? We have you say his name, but he always scores against us, doesn't he? I think he does.
Yeah, it was at Bayern before, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Wherever he is, he always does. He was really poor other than the goal, though. He wasn't recognisable, really, to me.
I think he's showing his age a little bit now, isn't he? He's well into his 30s, surely, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's around 33 now, maybe.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, I think with that one, apart from, I mean, Ramsdale didn't do anything wrong, as we said, and what could you do? It all felt nicely for him. And the free kick wasn't that debatable anyway. I'm not trying to get controversial here.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think it was. I think it was. I mean, I really, in pre-season, I don't like to go into the ref, but I do think he was dreadful. I mean, he was dreadful. The frustration from my point of view was when, as soon as I was getting in the car on the way home, obviously I saw some of the post-match comments, and I wasn't having Xavi saying we were basically hinted at us being overly physical. And like, we were in the stadium and for some reason we were surrounded by a lot of Arsenal fans, but also a lot of Barcelona fans. And I think the whole aggressive standpoint of the game was built up through the ref not calling fouls from Barcelona, specifically within the first 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah. And the first booking he gave, I might be wrong, but the first booking he gave was Havertz pulling a shirt back, which is a booking in a real game. About 70 yards away from our goal, he just did a little tug and they gave him a booking. And when I went, now we're going to be angry because they've made about half a dozen awful tackles, and this ref has been like, it's a pre-season game, let's not touch it. As soon as he gives out that first yellow card to us, I think we were really annoyed, and we showed it. What was great about it, though, Neil, against Man U, some people argued that, we allowed them to ruffle us up a little bit, and we didn't fight fire with fire because they were putting in some horrible challenges, Man U, and I don't think at all. And they did it again against Real Madrid where they got bashed. Did the same thing. Jude Bellingham was going mad, wasn't he? Because they were putting in leg breakers on them, and it's dodgy. And some of the tackles in this game, not from us, I don't believe. I think ours were cynical at best. Some of theirs were really dirty and dangerous tackles. So Xavi's got some cheek to come out and say that. about us taking it, overly serious and, a bit too physical. And he was angry with Arteta at the end of the game. I saw it in the
I saw the words, weren't they?
Yeah, and I was like, Arteta wasn't having any of it, and fair play to him because he knew exactly what he said. I thought he spoke about it really well. He said after the game that he said players will take things into their own hands. So I think what he was really saying was, if the ref's not going to handle things, which he didn't, our players are gonna go ahead and take these things into their own hands because they're not going to be fought off or bullied. And I think there's certain players that obviously I really liked, but I thought Havertz looked so strong. Neil, I thought I wasn't aware of his strength, to be honest, really. He's a big guy, but he doesn't look strong, you know what I mean? He looks quite feeble and lanky and awkward sometimes.
It's all of the era.
Yeah, but he is fast and he's really strong. And I thought in this game, he was really positionally aware. And by that, what I mean is there was times against Man U where he'd kind of lose his runner and start to think about what it was like to be almost a second forward again and things like that. This time I really felt he was part of the midfield three and he was tracking back and he was trying to help the midfield out and then he was going again. And he's a big space. That left 8 position is a big space position. It's a lot of to and fro. Late runs into the box, get back in. Late runs into the box, get back in. And sometimes he's not getting a lot of touches on the ball. But I thought he did it really well and I thought it was much improved from the Man United game. And it looks like he's going to start in that left 8 position, doesn't it, Neil? I mean, he's played almost every game there, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is what Arteta's looking for, isn't it? He wants to get all his big signings involved, and I think he will. I don't see why not. I just want to quickly go back to, I forgot to mention why one concern about the defence. I think it's the long balls. I think that's our Achilles heel. We don't know how to handle them, and I don't know why. And Arteta being, as I said earlier, so meticulous, why isn't he working on that? Because we were struggling with those last season as well. We really were. And if teams know that we struggle against that, it's a horrible way to see football. I mean, we used to do it in the George Graham era a lot, bypass the midfield and just hoof a ball in the air and then see if Ian Wright or Ant Smith get on the other end of it. But, we should be doing better against those. And I don't know why we're not. But other than that, I don't really have any concerns with the defence. I think, we've still got a couple of other, if you count the Community Shield, it is a pre-season friendly in a way as well. So we've still got a couple more matches to try and get things right. And I'm sure we will. So no worries. And Havertz is an interesting one. I think he's going to come in a little bit more slowly into the limelight, if you like, for me. I don't think he's going to be one of these ones where he's almost like one of those unsung heroes. I think that's what he's going to be. He's going to do things quietly, and he's going to make his name a little bit more quieter. And I think you've got to remember he's coming off the back of. You see, Rice was a hero for West Ham. Timber. There's so much talk about him. Whereas Havertz didn't do really anything at Chelsea. It didn't work for him.
Not for a while, yeah.
No, apart from the winner at the Champions League final. He's not really been the player that he was in his previous club. And so I think it's going to go, he's going to be a bit more quiet. And I like that. Maybe there won't be so much pressure on him, despite, 65 million is one of our biggest ever signings, isn't he? So it's kind of been hit that in a way has been taken away with Rice's signing, the value. And I think that's a good thing because there's no pressure. It's just, he's going to come in a little bit more quieter. And I think he'll be quite versatile as well because he can play a few different positions, Jack. I think he wants him for the midfield, 100%. But again, we've got options. We've still got options, haven't we? Rice didn't even play. And look how well we did without him. And I just think that Arteta has got, again, I think he can also play apart from the 8. But he can play right wing as well, can't he?
He did play, for Germany, he's played right wing quite a lot.
Yeah.
Now
I can't see it happening.
No, me neither. But he has. He's definitely can play there.
So he's got the ability to score goals. I know that he can score with his head. We know that. And look, he's got 2 or 3 already. 2, isn't he?
Yeah, and his goal in this game, obviously Saka scored the first one, which was a sort of mistake from Chelsea reject Christensen, which was lovely to see.
Great improvisation from him, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, really good. And then obviously he missed it. We'll come back to the Saka and the penalty stuff, but Havertz's goal was from an Odegaard header that was going wide actually when they replayed it, so it was good.
Yeah.
And it's not. That's what he needs to do. That's where he needs to be. It looked like he was really understanding positioning where Arteta's asking him to be. I think, and I think if he keeps doing it like that and he keeps arriving in the box, he's going to get a bag full of goals. I mean, Xhaka got 7 goals, 7 assists last season.
That's right. Yes.
I think he's going to beat him, mate. I think he's going to beat that comfortably. I really do. Because I just think, I mean, we might. What my concern is when I'm watching is, can he do the defensive work that Xhaka does? If we're under the cosh a little bit, can he sit a little bit closer to Partey or Rice? And in this game, because Barcelona, they like to dominate the ball too. I mean, I think they had 60% of the ball. I think it was skewed because we were basically winning from about early in the second half, so we kind of sat off a little bit. But they had about 60% of the ball. We don't give up 60% of the ball a lot. So it was really good to see, you know, a possessive team and someone like Havertz be as disciplined as he could be, yet still making those runs. He was on the last defender a lot, but then getting back in. And I understood as soon as we subbed him at 45, I went, yep, I've seen enough for me. I think he looked really good. So I was actually really happy with that sub. And Smith Rowe came on, which we'll talk about. But he got his goal, and which sort of brought it to 2-2. And I think I had the argument and I thought process that when you sort of shift the jigsaw that's so finely tuned like ours is starting to be under Arteta, and then you take a piece out of it like Xhaka, and you put a new piece in, which obviously we don't really have another obvious 8. I know we've looked at Smith Rowe there, Trossard there. They've all looked like they've got potential there, but it does look like Havertz has been bought specifically for that role. And I just wonder whether you think taking one piece of the jigsaw out is maybe okay, but if you take 2 pieces of it out in the same area, you know, because that's what we're looking to do with putting Rice at the 6, I wonder if it's too much too soon. And I wonder if that's the case, who maybe doesn't start as much. And this game, obviously, because Rice wasn't playing and because how good Thomas Partey was in this game. I mean, for 65, 70 minutes, I was like, this is peak Thomas Partey. I mean, he is literally running the whole midfield. He was so good. He was so silky, so good on the ball. I was like, that he literally is trying to prove a point. You know what else? He was fast. He looked like he was full of energy. You know, he looked like a fit Thomas Partey, which we all know when we've seen a fit and we're like, okay, he's ready. He looks like he's really trying to make a point that he wants to play here next season. And I think Arteta's seeing that.
So.
And I have to say, when I was watching it, Neil, I was like, that is not an easy role to just pick up. I don't care who it is, 105 million Declan Rice. I don't get it. It's just not an easy role to pick up. And I just wonder if especially with Rice not having as full a pre-season as Havertz, because we signed him a little bit later, he's obviously had this little calf knock. I wonder when it comes to the Community Shield, or specifically the Forest game, whether we ease Rice in. I don't know if you think that's possible, or is it not possible because 105 million just got to play him?
No, Arteta's not like that.
I agree.
He'll put his best players for the job, and if you look at everything, fitness, and he's managed injuries, players coming back to injuries really well. Where it's been frustrating at times, but he's really eased them in, hasn't he? And I think he knows what he's doing with his coaching staff and his fitness team and everything. And I just believe that just because he's 105 million, he just doesn't have the right to play. I think Arteta is a bit more. He's clever and he's astute, and he'll know that it's not just about the price tags of players. He's got to put the best players he's got available on the pitch. He's so professional with how he does things. You know, I don't think he's a player that will bow down to pressure, and media will hype, and it's like, oh yeah, well, he's somebody you haven't played him. What a waste of money. He won't care. He's not going to listen to any of that stuff. And look, if Partey's playing this well, and Havertz had a good show as well for the first 45 minutes, why not? Why not have them two? Why do we? Because you're right. That was my concern. Was this as well, that we're happy with the defence. We're happy with the forward line, despite not having a prolific centre forward that can score in every game, because we got goals coming in from everywhere, haven't we? It's just so good to see. We don't need a player getting 30 goals a season. We don't need a Haaland, because we're getting them from other sources, which I think is better, because you're not just reliant on one player. So, but my only concern was with the potential weakness in the midfield if we lost Xhaka and Partey, because for so much of the season, 80% of the season, it was working with them. They were our engine. and then to lose two big components, that's difficult to adjust, especially for the other players as well that were used to them. So I would rather, if Rice isn't quite ready and Partey's playing well, and hopefully he will stay, I haven't got a problem with that. I want to see Partey play. I do.
And then it always allows you the option of a Rice Partey double. If you want to change things and you need to be a little bit more solid centrally and not be so gung-ho, you can put Partey and Rice together. It's a possibility.
Arteta has said that. He says he does see no problem with them playing together as well.
Yeah.
So he hasn't seen that.
I think I've had some people sort of tweet at me saying, well, why do people think Rice can just play this left 8 position? He's not made for it. But obviously, if Rice was playing in the left 8, he wouldn't play it in the same way as what we're trying to get Havertz to play it in. We just wouldn't do that. That would be much more, where we're positionally putting him a little bit closer to Thomas Partey, I think. And I think he would be capable of doing that role, to be honest. If I was to have a criticism, we've only watched Rice for barely 45 minutes in the United game and 25 minutes in the game before that. But in the United game, obviously, everyone was relatively poor. But with Rice, if I was to make a criticism, and I don't think he was anywhere near the bad or the worst of the bunch or anything like that. I thought he was relatively smooth on everything. But he was sitting quite deep, quite close to his centre-backs, I felt, and sort of sitting on top of them at times, which is probably what he's used to doing at West Ham, to be honest, because they're under the cosh all the time. Yeah. But I think but he speaks so well. I think he'll pick things up really, really quickly. But I just think, look at City with Grealish, right? They signed him for 100 million. In his first season, he didn't start that many games, to be honest. And obviously there's a lot of criticism, and I don't particularly love Jack Grealish, but this season there's no doubt he's obviously dramatically improved, and he started most of the Premier League games. So I think by keeping Thomas Partey, you really allow, you talked about pressure with Havertz, you allow that pressure to be slightly off Rice too. It doesn't matter what the outside world's saying, it's all about the pitch, right? So if you're allowed to do that, and we all know with Thomas Partey that the big issue with Thomas Partey is availability. So we all know Declan Rice is going to get the time anyway, even if we start the season with Thomas Partey.
There is no way, Jack, that Partey can sustain a Prem and a Champions League.
No chance. No.
So,
and I think we've got our first 4 games, and then it's in a national break anyway. So he'll go off to Ghana, and you all know how that is, as long sort of trips, and the game comes back, and then suddenly. So I just think he's the way, put it this way, in terms of the fitness wise, and I know Partey didn't come over for the first game because he didn't travel immediately for the US tour. But to be honest, whenever he's played, even from the Nuremberg game onwards, I think he's been alongside Trossard and, of course, Saka, because Saka's just terrific. They've been our standout players for me, those 3, to be honest, in an attacking sense, for the other 2. But I thought he looked so smooth. No one could get near him, really, in this game. And when we needed his legs, he was there, and I was like, he just controls them. He's so silky.
It's like he's like 3 players in one almost when he's in that form. Just can't get past. He just controls the whole midfield. It's so beautiful to watch. When he's that Partey, I think he's one of the best in the world, to be honest. I honestly believe that, because he's in such control. There's not many midfielders that can do with him, or players in that position. And that is the key to every match, owning the midfield. It's so important. When we've had to see those matches where we've lost a bit of that, everything just changes. It really is so important. So I think he's massively important for us. As you said, he's silky, he's smooth. It's like he's effortless. He reminds me a bit of Saliba. You see Saliba, he just does everything without effort. I mean, God, some of the movement in that Barca game with Saliba was just a joy to watch. Back to his old, exactly what we saw right from the start. And we're thinking, if he can sustain his fitness, there's not many players that will be able to deal with him. He was under pressure so many times, but he didn't make it look like it, did he? He just controls the ball.
Yeah, he's so smooth.
Just moves away from the attacker and just passes it. And it's like, what? He's not even making any effort, it doesn't look like. And I felt that about Partey a lot of the times. Just completely dominant and making it look easy for himself. And it's like, it is a joy to watch. You're right. It's just unfortunate we conceded 3 goals because you were right. It actually it flattered them.
Oh, massively. I was sort of watching it 2-2 when Havertz scored. I was like, because all these Barca fans are around you, and they really didn't have a lot to cheer about. I mean, to be honest, I think we had 20 shots to their 9. Most of their cheers came from our big misses. The Saka's penalty miss. Saka also missed a sitter, from, I think it might have been first half as well. Might have been second half, but he lobbed it over the top of the bar from about 8 yards. And that was the biggest cheer you'd hear from the Barca fans, because they really weren't creating much. They had a couple of chances late on when we were 4-2 up, but we were pretty relaxed at that point and making a lot of changes. And I understand, Xavi's come out and says that basically this is their first pre-season game because they missed the Juventus one because of a stomach bug. Their season starts the same day as ours, right? Yes. Their season doesn't start at the end of August. It's August 11th, 12th, same day as ours. So they're on the same line. I understand we've had a few more games, but we're tired. We've travelled a lot around the US. It's not been an easy trip, so that's got to be factored in as well. I think
not just the tiredness. You made a great point about the conditions, the humidity.
Oh mate, it is so hot here. I mean, I'm in an area it's about 104 degrees where I am, but the game's 30 minutes away from here. So it's hot. The humidity's not too bad in LA. It's worse in New York, but it's so hot. And that's not something a lot of these players are used to when they're playing in England all the time. Some of the players are when they, from where they're from, and genetically they'll be a little bit more used to it. But acclimatization doesn't occur in 7-10 days. It just doesn't occur. You need double the amount of time for that. So all these players are fighting that, and they're going to reap the benefits of it, I think, next week when they come back. But obviously, a lot of teams are playing in these kind of climates at the moment. But we went in at half time. Just talking on Saka, I thought he was a menace the whole game. I thought he was fantastic. Even when he's missing chances, I'm like, he's so good. He's so good. For the second goal, he just knocks Alonso on the floor, ex-Chelsea as well. He's just so strong. He can go either way. He's just so central to everything we do. And it's almost like you don't speak about Saka as being a standout player in pre-season, because he just sets the standard for almost everyone. And he is so good. I mean, he's just so good. But any concern with him on penalties? I mean, I know it's pre-seasons, but we had the one at the end of last season against West Ham that he also put wide. Do you have any concerns? I personally wouldn't take him off of it. One, because I don't really see the quick, obvious alternative from the starting 11. I know you got people like Jorginho and that are fantastic penalty takers, but any concerns at all?
No, I'm sorry. I don't. I mean, from the way, just everything he does, to me, you can't see him getting better, but he seems to get better. It's just weird. I mean, again, going back to that goal he scored, it was just great improvisation. He stole it and he plants it in the net. I mean, if you don't, anything that boy touches, it's just amazing. Everything is driven on the right is him. It's because of him. Yes, sometimes he has a good link up with Ben White, but he just makes things happen for us. He's just one-track minded. He just wants to go forward and score, and he wants to go forward and score, and he wants to create problems. I just wish that great piece of work that Jesus done, amazing piece of work, had led to a Saka goal. He just went ahead of him, didn't it? He just didn't get his feet to it. I don't even remember. That was in the first half, I think.
That wasn't the one that hit over the bar.
No. Oh. He completely missed him. It was great work.
Of course. Yes. It looked like he looked like he just didn't expect the ball to come to him or something. It just went past him. Yeah. Otherwise, it would have been an easy tap in.
What a beautiful goal that would have been, and that would all be down to Jesus. But I don't have any concerns. Yes, he's missed the penalty. Yes, he skied one. So most of the best strikers in the world do that, for goodness sake. I mean, even Henry had chances. Do you remember in the Champions League final where he admitted that he fluffed one, didn't he? I think I remember that. And the best strikers in the world do it. And I'm sorry, this guy, he's 21, Jack. He hasn't even reached anywhere near his prime. And look at what he's doing. And it feels like we've had him forever. And he's just going to get better and better. I got no problems with him. No, none at all.
Perfect. No, I agree. And he was fantastic. And to be honest, he stayed on the pitch a long time. And I guess there's a couple of things you see in the stadium. And we were laughing, me and Garrett, because Saka and White, specifically White, in the second half, looked absolutely exhausted. I mean, they both looked so exhausted. And the one criticism I have of White, and I do like him, and I thought he had a fantastic season last season. I think he had our most minutes alongside Saka and Ramsdale. Maybe one other player, probably Gabriel. But I don't think he plays through tiredness very well. I think when Ben White gets tired, I think he does silly things. So if you remember, like Man U at home last season, if you check back in the text, we were all texting. We were like, what's wrong with Ben White? Like, and he a couple of times he just stopped moving, like he just walked. And and then Rashford obviously scored the goal, and it wasn't really Ben White's fault, but maybe he took that to heart. I don't know. But he played 2 games that week, and he wasn't playing 2 games a week too much. And every now and then, even though he's a really fit player, every now and then Ben White just looks exhausted. And what was really interesting in this game was about the 60th minute, I was like, get him off, because he was doing silly things. He was like just kicking the ball out of play and not tracking his runner, and it just didn't look like the normal Ben White. And Arteta just left him on. He made about 7 subs and he just left Ben White on. I don't know if he saw out the game, but he saw out a lot of the game. And I thought I was just started laughing towards the end of it. I was like, because he's literally exhausted. But I do think it was quite clever, because I think he needs to learn to play through tiredness better. I think he needs to learn to make decisions better when he's exhausted. Like Gabriel Jesus is a player that, to me, often looks tired, but he always makes really good decisions when he's tired. Like he looks tired, you're like, I can't keep going, but he does. He keeps getting wins a throw in or something. Ben White, he gets tired, he just whacks the ball out of play, and it's quite frustrating. And I was watching this game and I was like, oh no, maybe you should just play him through it. I mean, he's going to go through the pain barrier, but he's got to get comfortable with it being uncomfortable almost, And I think it's going to sort of send him well into the season, but because we might need him to do that at times. I think we've got more ability to change him earlier now.
Oh, yeah.
So we didn't have Tommy Asu for a while, and he was basically had to play 90 minutes. But that was quite interesting. But 2-2, I did feel a bit hard done by at half time, to be honest. But we came out, we changed Havertz for Smith Rowe. What was your thoughts on Smith Rowe? It was probably his first sort of full good look at him. We only had about 20 minutes, and obviously he just come back from the Euros. But I thought he looked pretty sharp, Smith Rowe. Still a little bit to go, but he definitely looks fit, which is
strong,
really important and strong. Yeah, and he was working both ways. There was one time where Gabriel got annoyed with him for not tracking, I think. But overall, I thought he looked pretty good. What about you?
Yeah, I think the Euros competition's done him wonders. It's done him wonders, absolutely. And my only concern with Smith Rowe is when we're going to keep him. There was this talk about, is he going to be club? That would be it. If Arteta and they do let him go, that would be the biggest mistake. I think there's a real player in him. If he can keep injury-free and he's not Jack Wilshere 2.0, he's going to be some player. I've always liked him. When him and Saka broke together, I've said it over and over again. You're probably sick and tired of me saying it, but I just thought that they were together. They came in together. They held the club together for a while when we were doing so poorly. And then at the time, I thought, for me, I actually thought he would become the better player. But because of injuries and stuff, he hasn't had the opportunity to do so. Saka's just gone on leaps and bounds. But I really do believe he's got the ability to do the same. If he stays injury-free and he gets game time, which I think he will, because we're going to be fighting. Do you know what? I know this is early doors, but I think we could make an impact this season in the Champions League. Under Wenger, we'd always get into it, but we wouldn't have the most successful campaigns, and we would drop off early. It was disappointing. I don't know. I'm getting a feeling that Arteta, he really wants this trophy. He wants to do one thing that Wenger didn't do and win the Champions League. I'm pretty certain of this. And I think because of that, if we're going to get more game time and more games to play, he's going to get opportunities. He looks strong. He looks sharp. I mean that we could have almost had another Saka Smith Rowe goal, with an assist. Remember, we used to have them back in the day when they were both fit. And do you remember they used to talk about how telepathic they were? Just as kids, when they were training and playing all the younger games and the academy games, and even in training, they said they're just telepathic. They just know how they work with each other. And my God, if that's the case, and Smith Rowe plays, and they could rekindle that and get that back, it's another player another golden player in our squad.
Do you think his best way to get into the team is where is he going to find the minutes? Is it the left 8 role, the left wing role? Where's he going to find it? It feels like the left 8 and alongside what Havertz is doing, it might be his most likely option for minutes. It's very congested up there, though, where he likes to play. Because he can't really do the Odegaard role, can he? Because it feels to me like the direct replacement for Odegaard, if he was to, be suspended or get injured, touch wood, no, but would be Vieira at this point, to be honest. Very different player. But in terms of his ability on the ball, his left-footedness, his ability to create. Smith Rowe's a very different type of number 10, isn't he? He's not like Odegaard, really. I mean, he's a much more sort of open space, driving, running into the box. Mimics the 8 role more than the 10 role that we play on the left side, doesn't he? So I'm thinking in my head that he needs to push himself to get to where Havertz, or take some minutes off Havertz, basically. But I don't know if you think he could crop up.
No, I think so. Well, that's who he came on for, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think in the last game it was where he came on as well. I don't know if he came on directly for Havertz, but that's where he played.
Yeah. I think that's probably what it's going to be then. I think so. Yeah. He'll be playing that role for sure. And why not? I personally, I just want to see him. I've got so much hope for the guy. For me, this season, I want to see Trossard get lots of minutes because he deserves them. I don't think there's any other player that deserves it more than he does. And I want to see Emma Smith-Rowe get game time because I think they are 2 shining stars for us, hugely. And Emma Smith-Rowe, I'm telling you, he's got so much talent. My only worry about him is injuries. I think once he gets back into the groove, he's going to be so useful for us, Jack.
Stay fit.
100%. That's it.
Stay fit.
My only concern for him. And if he stays fit, we keep him and he gets game time. You just watch. He's gonna blow this Prem apart. He's brilliant.
Well, and the little unfortunate niggle to or the toe injury, I think it was to Nelson, might provide him just that little opening, because obviously Nelson doesn't exactly. Yeah, I know, right?
Christ.
No Rice, no Zinchenko, no Nelson. We still got a lot to come into the group. And that's probably why he's sitting there going, he didn't get some out the door really. But Nelson, he's another one that picks up a lot of little niggling injuries that sets it back a little bit. But Smith Rowe has to use that as an opportunity because they are not fighting for the same minutes, but it's another attacking option. And Smith Rowe, to be fair, if you talk about impact players from the bench, which I do think largely is what Smith Rowe is going to be, right? I don't see him initially at least starting that many games.
No.
So he's going to have to make the impact from the bench. And we don't have a lot of players that have been able to do that. Last season, our best was Trossard and Nelson, right? But there wasn't really any others there. So if Smith Rowe can be that, which he was really in his best season, he was really an impact player from the bench for about half of it. If he go, then that's where suddenly his starting minutes are coming in. So he really needs to, whatever he gets, 25 minutes, wherever it is.
Totally agree.
He does it right because that could be really, really handy for us. And just on Trossard, I think the reason Trossard gets so many minutes is because he's so versatile. One, he's so he's so prolific. He's so he's so clinical in the final third. He only got 1 goal for us last season, but in truth, if you watch back,
he got 2.
He got 2 or 3 maybe. He hit the bar multiple times. He had the Leicester one disallowed. He had
exactly.
The Brentford one, I think it was it? I think so. One disallowed there or something, and there was. But he's 2 goals, Neil. They were, the first one very individual quality, the second one just instinct from a Tierney cross. But I think he's probably the best finisher at the club, to be honest.
Yeah,
I know he's only had 1 goal, but in terms of when he's in front of, he's so. Yeah, he can go off both sides, inside, outside the box. The variety that he can provide. He is, what a signing for 25 odd million. I know he's 28, but what a signing that has been. And how thankful, you got to really thank Chelsea because they're the ones that spent the money on Mudryk to allow us to pivot.
Amazing how
signing otherwise, wouldn't we?
Exactly. Amazing how things work out, right? Everyone was so fixated on Mudryk and disappointed that Chelsea beat us to him and all this. But then out of the woodwork comes Trossard. And I know, was it James was always a big fan of him.
Huge, before we signed him,
yeah. And I didn't know too much about him because I'm blinkered and I only look at Arsenal players. But gosh, for a January signing, I'm going to go on record. So I think he's our best January signing ever, Jack. I can't think of anyone else.
Who's up there? Arshavin, Adebayor. I think Reyes was a January.
Yeah.
He's right up there at the moment.
He's
up above there.
Phenomenal. And I think you're onto something there. I think he is probably arguably our best finisher. Game
really
time, game play. It's what he creates. The first goal, is just cleverly just bamboozled all the defence, step overs and whatnot, and then the accuracy of the shot was like an arrow. wasn't it? It wasn't particularly powerful, just accurate. And then the second, oh my God, that was one touch. And that was driven in quite hard by Tierney as well, and just so fast. I mean, even if you watch it in slow motion, it looks pretty quick, but just accurate. And I don't know what to say about him, because he gives us something different up front as well. It's slightly different to the rest. That's what I'm loving about this team is there's so much. We used to have a team full of number 10s. You put that tweeting on that went viral. They're all great in their own right, all individually gifted, very talented, but they were all the same. They were all very similar. And now we've got such variety. Look at Havertz is so different to everyone else. Trossard's so different to everyone else. Everyone is, Jesus is unique. Saka's unique. I mean, Jack, this is exciting times. We should be getting so full on with this. I don't think we realise what we've got. Just as we were just a few minutes ago, I completely forgot about Nelson. We got Nelson and completely forgot about him. He's just signed a contract. I mean, it's unbelievable. What a team. But Trossard, God, please start him. I really would like him to start.
The problem is there, and I'm not too concerned, but I argued, I tweeted that he's the best 12th man in the league, and it wasn't a criticism; it was a positive, And the reason I said that was, if you ask 10 Arsenal fans what their starting 11 is, no matter, believe it, a lot of them probably won't have Trossard in it because of the quality there, and but I think he plays so many games this season just simply because he can literally play any role up there. So you want to give anyone a rest, but you still you need a goal. It's Trossard. It's Trossard off the bench every time. But like you said, he's going to start a lot of minutes too because he can plug every area. Martinelli's got a little bit of a tightness. He plays. Jesus, he plays. For me, he's the first alternative possibly for all three forward positions. Do you know what I mean? Which means he's going to play so much. So I'm not even that concerned if he doesn't start the first game of the season, because I'm like, he's going to play so much because any one of them's feeling just a little bit off. He's going to go, well, it doesn't matter because I've got Trossard. It doesn't matter which position either because I just put Trossard there. Even right wing, when I went to Arsenal Leeds, he played right wing, and a lot of people say it didn't really work, but he still I think he created one, and he created Jesus' second goal. He was still super productive,
He got 12 assists last season, 10 of them at Arsenal, wasn't it, or something like that?
I looked that up. He got 10 assists at Arsenal, 2 at Brighton, 7 goals at Arsenal, only 1 at Brighton, 1 at Arsenal. So he almost flipped it. But like you said, he was actually very, very unlucky not to really have a half a dozen goals for Arsenal from January onwards. And to have his goals and his production for a whole season is massive, isn't it? Because most top teams, they need like probably 5 players in their front 3 that they can trust. If you look at like Liverpool, they had Salah, Mane, Firmino, but then they had a few others, Jota, behind them that they could trust to be productive. And I trust our 3, Martinelli, Jesus, Saka, and then Trossard's the fourth. And I guess in my head, the worry is, not the worry, but I don't know who the 5th is, and it needs to be one of Smith Rowe, Vieira, or Nelson. Need to be that 5th one that we can be like, they can start. They're not going to drop the level, and they're going to be productive. And we could talk about it, but I don't think we for sure know who that is. And we probably just need it to be one of them. We probably just need one of them to be that player.
You've got your 5, then you've got your 5.
Yeah, and then you've got I think you need 5. If you're playing in double competitions, you need 5 because you're going to rotate that front 3 quite a lot.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm feeling like we've got 4. We've got the possibility for 5, but it needs to be one of those 3 needs to really have a big season. And on that point, Fabio Vieira, who hasn't had a great pre-season, I don't think, but probably no one needed a goal like that more than Fabio Vieira. I think he missed the penalty I didn't even watch it, the penalty shootout that happened after the United game, and he apparently looked really down after it. And he's played in the Odegaard role mostly in the pre-season because Odegaard had an injury in one of the games and he played in it, and he's not been great. But and this is what he was doing earlier in the last, at the start of last season when he was coming in, against Brentford and Wolves and stuff. Correct. And also what he did for Porto. He had an unbelievable stat record for Porto. I think his production, I'll look it up in a second, but his production was unbelievable for that season in Porto. And he's got the ability, isn't he? I mean, you said it reminds you of the Vieira goal at Newcastle.
Newcastle,
yeah. The top corner one when we won 5-0, was it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and it reminded me a little bit of the Brentford away one where he scored. It was obviously to the other corner. But it could be pretty big for his confidence, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. You just got to see more consistency from him. I like you, and I've always said it, and then you've said it. There's a player in him. There is a player in him. There's something about him. I still think he's still not physically right for the Prem. He's got to be stronger. And like the way you see, if you take Smith Rowe and Vieira, I saw chalk and cheese there. Smith Rowe looks ready. He looks big.
He does look strong. Yeah.
And that's what I'd like to see Vieira. And if I see that in Vieira, then I'm a little bit less concerned. I still think he's a little bit too meek for the Premiership. I just do. But the talent is there, the skill is there. But whether he can do that game in and game out, Jack, I don't know. I really don't know. Because, like you said, you touched on a couple of instances for last season. When he first came on, we thought, wow, he's not much of a player in terms of physical attributes, but my God, he looks good, doesn't he? And we were all we're all going wax lyrical about him. Everyone on the podcast was like, he looks good. He looks like a great player. This is a great signing. And then nothing happened for him, did it? And that's my worry. We've seen a good moment from him against Barca, but can he do that all the time? Is he going to be consistent enough? That's my worry, you see, with him. But yes, I think there's a future for him at the club. Whether that's this season or not, you just said you need the fifth, and you mentioned Vieira, Nelson, Smith Rowe. For me, out the three, again, if the fitness is not going to be a problem, it's going to be Smith Rowe all day. Yeah. I think so.
I really like Vieira. I mean, even when he was criticised last season, and I think rightly so to a certain degree. I really like him, and I was really happy when he scored. I mean, he had 14 assists, 6 goals in 27 games when Porto won the league. He's really, he has the ability to be really productive in the final third. I really think now. I think he's got the ability to be really, really productive with his final ball and his strike. He just lost a little bit of confidence. And to be fair, he doesn't look bigger at all. I mean, he looks as skinny as ever, but he was definitely stronger in this game. He was holding off people. I think there was a little ruck that we had, and he was getting involved. And I was like, yeah, all right, Fabio, all right, I like that. So it was nice to see. It just looked like he felt a little bit more confident. And the good thing probably is he hasn't had a great pre-season, but he's been fit for all of it. And that's been important, because last pre-season he came in and he was in a boot for a month, and then we started the season and he missed the whole of pre-season, and he never really got a full pre-season with us.
Well, maybe just try him for a full. Well, to start against Monaco, is it next?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, well, yeah, because we obviously got the City game in the same week, so I could definitely see him not necessarily playing, a starting 11 as such. And one thing I would say for Vieira, last season he was coming in a lot in the Xhaka role when he was falling into the games, and I think he's far more cut out to come in for the Odegaard role, or even the Saka role possibly. But basically, he looks more comfortable coming in from the right on that left foot, I think. Yeah. He looks more comfortable. That's where all of his sort of best moments have come from. Even if you remember when we lost to Man U away. And he was really good. And he created it was all from that right side where he was whipping balls in. And I'm like, I think he's going to do better. And really what we were asking from Vieira is, if that's what Arteta sees in him, is can we take Odegaard off in a game that we're winning on the 70th minute and bring you on?
Yeah.
And if we can do that, that's massive. That's enough. Can we take Saka off in the 70th minute?
Please.
We've not been able to, right? We've not been able. Saka's basically played all 90 minutes. I mean, in this game, he basically played 85, and then we brought on Kusa Dubry for his first few minutes, who I like a lot, actually. But again, we don't have a direct replacement for Saka, which I'm not certain we do anything in the market, but if we do, that's the one position I think we would look at. But I'm still not. I still think there's a chance we could be done with incomings, but we'll talk about that at the end. But great goals from Trossard. Fantastic final goal from Vieira after we conceded from a Rob Holding slip. Yeah. But he I didn't think he came on long enough to make a mistake, but he did. We might have to accept that 2 million from Besiktas, to be honest. But No, I did feel bad for him because he likes coming out to the US, and he probably didn't want to make that error. And he's got a good character. And another one we probably should touch on is Tierney. Do you think anything different with Tierney? Because he's not started one of the pre-season games. He's not started any of them. And let's be honest, Neil, Zinchenko's been unfit for the whole of it, and he's basically tried every other option at left back to start other than Tierney. So despite the fact I think Tierney's looked pretty good, and he definitely looked good in this game, it doesn't fill me with confidence that there's any other intention other than to probably not play him that much anyway this season. But it's very quiet on the transfer front. Do you have any reason for that? Do you think? I think there's definitely a possibility he could stay because people might not come in for him. But I think if people do come in for him, it will be a natural progression for him to move on, basically. But he's good attitude though, isn't he? He's professional. He never moans. He never complains. He gets on with it, doesn't he?
The funny thing is, when Trossard bagged that goal, I've never seen a bigger smile on Tierney's face, and that was quite refreshing because normally he's not a smiler, really, is he? No. But I thought he was like from side to side, he had a big grin, he was smiling and celebrating, and I thought, I don't know, is that telling me something? Am I reading too much into that? I don't know. Maybe he is happy with Arsenal. Maybe Arteta isn't going to sell him. I think if someone comes in strongly for him, it might be best for him. Yes, I feel somehow it will still be a lot. Although we've got so much now in the defence, I still think it might be a bit of a loss. But end of the day, if the player is going to benefit from it, and I think he'll be brilliant at another club. By the way, I still think he's a great player. The way you see a lot in Vieira, I still see a lot in Tierney. He might, just because Arteta's playing a different way with his left back, he wants to utilise his left back a little bit differently, and it might be out the comfort zone for Tierney. It doesn't make him a bad player, and I just feel that he could probably walk into a lot of other Premier teams if he wants to stay in England. That is, so I think if a bid comes in and it's a good bid, because it'd be great to get some big money in now. You can see it with Balogun getting in. Maybe we were discussing him, weren't we, in that pod? We could potentially get quite a bit of money in for him. But like you said, there's no rumblings. There's nothing. So if that's the case, I'm all right either way. If he stays and we can utilise him, and he can do what he did in the game with Barcelona, and he could be that Tierney again, it's another option, isn't it?
Yeah.
Among so many. But if a bid comes in, I think it'll be good to let him go. So yeah. I'm in the middle with it. I'm okay either way. I'm not overly concerned either way. But you're right. If he stays, his game time's going to be limited. I can't see him playing that much.
Yeah.
So.
No. Yeah. It's interesting. Gone very quiet on it. I still expect a Newcastle or a Villa. Oh, I've got West Ham in the back of my head. I don't know why. I think it's because they sold their left back. But I've got those sort of clubs in mind that they'll likely come in at some point. I don't know why it's not yet, because obviously the season's not that far away. But I do think. But to be honest, this is Arteta's being sensible here, because if he's got the intention of selling Tierney, you don't want to leave him on the bench for 90 minutes in every pre-season game. It doesn't do him any favours to his value or anything like that. True. So you want to use that player. The last thing we want is a Nicolas Pepe type situation where the guy's just in the gym every day and not even training with the at the club's facilities or whatever. It's just odd, and it's not affecting the club as such, but we're still a big contract and we'd just like to get rid of the guy, to be honest. But and it's hard to get rid of someone when they're not involved whatsoever, so I know I applaud him for being a good pro, and even in this game, he looked like he came on, he fully focused, he tried to give everything. And I think, probably deep down, if you ask him, he'll say, yeah, I obviously want to be starting more games. I probably want to go somewhere. So let's see what happens with it. Neil, the positives I took away from the pre-season, and this game, I thought I pretty much had everything: controversy, penalties, goals, had everything. Well, obviously, some players like Trossard and Saka and Partey, I thought those were the standout players. I thought Saliba again was terrific. What about you can't take too many negatives. It's hard to evaluate pre-season, and sometimes I think nowadays we maybe put a little bit too much on it. But some people say Ramsdale's been a little bit of concern in pre-season, a few dodgy errors. Sometimes his distribution's not been as good. Do you have concerns? A lot of people saying it's been a really big season for Ramsdale. It's a big season for everyone, but some people, having some question marks about him towards the end of last season. And I thought he was terrific for most of last season, to be honest. But and then he's had a couple of dodgy moments in pre-season. Do you have any sort of worries there about his sort of, uneasy start in pre-season?
The only concern I've got is I thought his distribution level's gone down, because he was amazing with that initially. Yeah. We were coming off, watching Leno, and then we saw Ramsey. We thought, God, look at this guy's distribution. It's ridiculous. He gets the ball back in play. He's almost like a creative player as a goalkeeper, almost. And I just think that's gone down. If anything's suffered, I think for me it's that. I'm not too worried about his actual goalkeeping itself, because all I recall about Ramsdale is those ridiculously out of this world saves that he was pulling off, and he'll get that back. He's a young keeper. We've got to remember, he's not old. He's quite young for a keeper. Yeah. And I don't have any concerns with that. I think he'll once we can start getting into the groove again, and if things go our way and we start being the team we were, for 2/3 of last season, a little bit more than that, maybe 8% of last season, I think he's going to be fine. I just hope that he could work on his distribution a little bit. But then again, most of our players from the back anyway. It doesn't have to be crazily good with his distribution, if that makes sense. Sometimes, yes, of course, to get something going very, very quickly. Say we're chasing the game and time's running out, we might need that from him. But I feel it's more about him just doing what he was doing last season for 8% of it. I thought it was great goalkeeping. He made some amazing saves. And look, even with Barcelona, as we said, the first save was great. It was just that it was unfortunate that the rebound went straight to their player. But no, I'm not particularly, Jack. Yeah, I don't know if you have. I don't. I think he's a keeper that's going to be at the club hopefully for a while, and I think he's going to do well with us. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. Other possible negatives. Eddie Nketiah, I don't think he's had a great pre-season, to be honest. And I think there's some concern. Obviously, the Balogun stuff doesn't help him, because a lot of people would argue that there's a belief that for a lot of people that Balogun maybe has more potential. And I don't particularly, I think Balogun will be sold pretty soon, but I don't blame Arteta at all for this. I put it more down to the situation, the contract situation, the fact that he's got a much lower wage than Eddie Nketiah, and the fact that I don't necessarily think he's come back with the intention of playing the Eddie Nketiah role, which he looks like he wants to be the main man. I mean, a lot of the stuff coming out from the media from sort of January onwards was basically saying that he doesn't intend to come back and be a bit part player kind of thing. And I think Arteta, when he just wants to see the attitude from a player. How much do you want to be here, right? And I don't think he's got that vibe from Balogun. In all the comments that he's mentioned about Balogun, it's been very vague, like we'll see what happens, he's with us for now, that kind of stuff. And if you look at a lot of the cryptic stuff Balogun posts, and you can't read too much into everything, but he never really felt like, since he's been on this loan, that he's desperate to get back and play for Arsenal Football Club. It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like that in any of the media stuff he's done. It's been very much sort of, I'm getting fit, I'm here for pre-season kind of thing. But that shouldn't be Eddie's fault. But at the same time, when Eddie's played, and he's played a fair amount this pre-season, I don't think he's looked great. He's not got into a lot of goal-scoring positions. He's worked hard. He always works hard, Eddie. But I'm just not sure the quality's there. And with Balogun, whilst it's a little bit of an unknown, you're not really sure what his ceiling is. I feel like I'm relatively certain of what Eddie's ceiling is. And I just wonder if you have any concerns, because if Eddie stays, and at this point I think it's a good chance he does stay, though I could see bids coming in for him, and I'd be really curious to see what we do if they do. But if he stays, I don't see him getting a lot of minutes still. I know he's played a lot in pre-season, but I personally don't think he's going to get a lot of minutes. What about you?
He's got to go for me. I know it's harsh. Balogun's gone. He hasn't got the Arsenal is not in his heart. He just wants to go. It's so obvious. So I think if Balogun is not sold, that will be the biggest shock for me in this transfer window. even more so than, cutting ties with players like Pepe, etc. Bellingham, he just doesn't want to be here. You can even, I remember I watched the game that was shown. Apple showed it. Apple TV showed it,
yep.
And I was watching that right from the start. So I was watching all the build up, and it wasn't just that bit. It was the skills challenge, and the one before. I watched that as well.
Yeah.
And he was interviewed a couple of times, and you could just tell he doesn't want to be at Arsenal. It's just so obvious in his body language, attitude, the whole lot. So he's gone, and I think Arteta knows that, and he's not going to mess about. So hopefully we can get some money, good money in for him. And I'm not really that interested where he goes. Just get the money and get rid of him. Get him off.
Bothered if he stays in the league? Bothered if he stays in the league?
Ah, yeah, that's a good point. I can't. Do you know what?
It feels like one that's going to go abroad, doesn't it? It feels like one.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think he won't. I think he'll go abroad. If he stays in the league, he stays in the league. It is what it is. I think we've got too much quality not to worry about it too much. So whatever, let that be. But Eddie, I'm going to go back to what I had a slight change when he came in for Jesus, when Jesus was injured, and he did pretty well.
Yeah, early on, yeah.
I thought, wow, okay, maybe I've got him wrong, but I've reverted back to my feelings before. I just don't think he's made the cut for the levels that we want to go to. We want to be challenging for the top 2-tier trophies. I just don't think he's got it. I don't see enough in him. You're right. He works hard. He gives effort. There's no doubt about that. But sometimes you need a little bit more than that to stand out. And we need to stand out players now, Jack. If we want to breach those levels, if we want to attain what City's attaining or get to their levels or near their levels, we need to do better than the best or be better than the best. And for me, that's not Eddie. And it'll be interesting if they both go. I don't know if it'll be a huge loss. I don't know. I think we've got too many options now. Too many. I
can't even play, mate. I genuinely don't. I'm not even sure Eddie's third choice. I'm not even sure he's third choice. Right? If Jesus goes down, if he's out tomorrow, touch wood, no. If he's out tomorrow, I think Trossard comes in. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if Trossard's not available, I think there's a real argument to say you might put Martinelli there, you might put Havertz there. I think. I don't think. I know he's played a lot of minutes, but I don't think he's going to play. I don't think.
Do you think he was playing a lot of minutes to showcase potential buyers?
Possibly,
maybe?
Because I do think that's quite. I don't necessarily. If we get rid of him for anything like 20 million plus, it makes the 100k a week that we signed him up to last year look pretty good. But if we can't get rid of him, and there's no bids that come in for him, then it makes that look a little bit silly, and it concerns me for the likes of Nelson that are getting that wage now as well. But I think Nelson's got more to him, to be honest. But there has been some rumours and mutterings about Eddie and Nketiah within the league that the teams might come in, like Palace and teams like that might come in for him. And whilst I don't think he's good enough for us, I definitely think Eddie Nketiah is the one thing he proved to me, because I didn't believe he was a Premier League striker about a year and a half ago. I definitely think he's a Premier League striker. I don't think he's the upper part of the Premier League striker, but I could definitely see him.
Palace would be good. Palace would be great.
Like a mid-table, Premier, and I could see him bagging a fair few goals from him, doing really well. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think he fits us. I don't think he's got the technical ability to play with us, to be honest. And if you don't have the technical ability to play from that position, then you've got to be really clinical. And he's not. He's not really clinical. He doesn't get in the bit. I think Balogun has the ability. It looks to me like his ability to be quite clinical. Which would make more sense if the logistics were there.
He doesn't want to be here.
Yeah, of course. So for me, we've argued a month ago, I'd be quite happy to get rid of both of them if you got 60 million in for the pair, and which is significant money for us, 60 million. And then you could really reinvest it in a different style striker, or maybe that perfect right wing solution for Saka if he was out and stuff like that. And I think it allows you to, because I'm not certain a Balogun sale allows us to reinvest in the front area. I think we're still quite impacted there, to be honest, because we didn't use Balogun last year, so that wasn't on the books. And then we've got Trossard for the whole year now, and Havertz possibly added as another option. We're fuller already without him. So I don't think a Balogun sale necessarily allows us to dip back into the market, but a Balogun and Eddie sale definitely does. definitely allows us to dip back into the market, which is really interesting. So, yeah, those were the couple of negatives. Obviously, Balogun's a little bit of a negative because he didn't play, but I didn't really think anything. I didn't think he was going to play too much anyway. But yeah, I'd say Eddie and maybe a little bit of Ramsdale. But beyond that, I think it's been a pretty successful US tour. Everyone touchwood's fit. Through it, right? No, I mean Zinchenko wasn't fit going into it, but nothing too serious.
Thank God. I mean, Barcelona trying to do leg breakers. Honestly,
I know.
I saw three that were bad. I'm like, what is this?
Did you see the one in the second half on Saka? It was a bad challenge. They didn't call it. And I thought it was, but they didn't call it. They kept playing and Jorginho just wasn't having any with it and just knocked one of these Barca players off the ball and then it all created a ruck. I mean, again, ref, you cause that just from not calling, just call a foul. Just go, it's just really poor refereeing. But hopefully, I mean, we will suffer more of that in the Premier League. We know we will. But that's a little bit frustration. Before we go, Monaco and City coming up. Obviously, I don't want to do predictions or anything like that, but how serious do you think we'll take the City game, Community Shield? I think he'll take it very. I don't think necessarily the midweek one he will as much. But is there anything you'd like to see him? Yeah, I'd like to see if Rice is fit. I'd obviously like to see Rice and Havertz combo as well because it's not a game that has a lot running on it. So you get Rice and Havertz together as much as you can, right? Because that's the eventual desire to do that. So hopefully we can see a little bit of that, and then maybe someone like a Vieira to come in and a couple of other changes. Maybe Nelson's back in the squad and people like that. Yeah. But that would be good to see. And then you'll go into the Community Shield. Yes, going to the Community Shield. I think he's going to take that really seriously. He's not going to treat that as what it used to be in the past. He's going to take it seriously because I think we need to get this mental block against City out of our systems. You know, they'd done us twice last season, which in theory cost us the league, if you look at it that way. I think he needs to know how much, if any, we've progressed from that to now what's going to be in this season. He's going to take that game seriously. Now, the only thing is, will Pep take it as seriously? I don't know. He might do. Not sure. So that'll be interesting. Notoriously, he doesn't, does he? I mean, not as seriously as league games and stuff like that. And they tend to be slow starters. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a win there, and then everyone's like, "Yeah, look at this, we're beating City." So it's a weird one to use that as a benchmark. We might play really well against them, we might win, get the result, but then I don't want that to put kind of false hope, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because number one, we don't know how serious City are going to take it, and number two, they're slow starters. So we've got to put that, keep that, be aware of that. But of course, I'd want to see a win because it would be nice just to get one over them because we know the last one we beat them was the FA Cup, wasn't it? I think. I think so. Yeah, I think it was the semi-final, So, it'd be nice to get a win with them anyway, just to get that win over them. And that will give us the momentum and the confidence to start the season with Forest. So, yeah, let's play a good team against them. And let's do, if any experimentations left to do, let's leave that for the Monaco game. That's how I see it. Yeah, exactly. And they'll go long against us as well. That's what they did at the Etihad. So we've got to be able to deal with those because they are really effective at that. They get De Bruyne and Haaland onto it and they can go long. They've proven they can go long. They basically did it against us in both games and they were pretty effective from it. So we just got to cut those silly errors out of the back. I'm not really sure how we do it, but Saliba and Gabriel, they're not. Gabriel has the odd error in him, but I think, he usually recovers from them pretty well. He doesn't make them very often. So we just need to be not putting too much strain on our centre-backs, but at the same time, can't be making silly errors back there. Partey or Rice for the Community Shield? What's your thought? I mean, for me, the team doesn't quite pick itself because Trossard's putting in a huge dilemma for everybody. Like, well, how do you fit him in? But other than that, I think a team almost picks itself beyond the left-back conundrum. Partey or Rice? I'd go with Partey. Yeah, I think it's important as well. But I'd love to see Rice a lot in the Monaco game. Play Rice for 60 in the Monaco game. Yeah. But then I'd flip it for the City game. But just because that's what I'll do. So Monaco, start Rice and bring Partey on maybe so you get some legs for the City game. Reverse it. You're spot on. I like that. Yeah, let's see. That. You watch, it'll be El Neni, won't it? I was trying to teach Garrett the shake it El Neni song. I forgot about him as well. Oh, we've got a plethora of number sixes, haven't we? We've got probably the best sixes in the league. I mean, look at it. Rice, Partey, Jorginho. We didn't mention Jorginho. I like him. I'm really liking him. I think he's going to offer another option for us. I like him, Jack. I know he's not going to be a long term, maybe another season and a half.
but great. I'm pleased we've got him. I'm pleased we've got him.
He looks like he's really good around the group as well. He looks like everyone seems to love hanging out with him. And
I can see him becoming a coach. The way Arteta did it, I could see him doing the same thing. I really can see that. Yeah. Because apparently he's really intelligent like that as well, like Arteta was when he was playing. So
he's terrific if you just want to keep the ball and kill it with 3,000 passes, because he doesn't really lose it much, and he always plays the right pass and stuff like that. Obviously physically, definitely got a little bit to be decided, but it's got so many options there now. So it's great. We're looking good, mate, and we're looking at all these other clubs. We
should be excited, really excited, Jack. Honestly, I don't get all this negativity on Twitter. That's why I stay away from it. I just don't want to hear it. What is this rubbish? We make one mistake. Oh, it's doom and gloom. Get rid of it. What? Shut up. Come on.
Yeah. I know, and it's just pre-season.
Enough's enough.
You got to enjoy it. But hopefully we've got a really interesting week coming up, and it's all about the Forest game, obviously. But the Community Shield will definitely be one to watch, and hopefully we can put a marker down. So it'll be interesting. You'll be there. Bring us luck, mate. Bring us luck at Wembley.
Man, I'll try.
You got. But thank you. We're on at Purely Arsenal FP on Twitter, and you can find our Twitter accounts there, and Purely Arsenal on YouTube. If you can, give us a thumbs up. Give us a subscribe there. It's free. It's ad-free and free, and we appreciate everyone that's listening there. Or you can find us on at Purely Arsenal FP on Twitter if you want the podcast links and stuff like that, or just search us in anything like Spotify or the Apple Podcast app or any of the rubbish apps too. We're on there as well, I think. Wherever Anthony puts us, he puts us on most of them, I think. But Neil, it's been a pleasure. We'll be back, maybe not after the Monaco game, but definitely after the Community Shield win. We'll be back after that. First trophy of the season. You know what I mean? That's what we do. Thank you, Neil. Up the Arsenal.
Come on.